Welcome to the YouTube Creators Hub podcast, where we help you conquer the internet one video at a time. We cover everything from how to start a YouTube channel to how to make a video go viral. And now, here's your host, the one and only Dusty Porter.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 338 of the YouTube Creators Hub podcast. If you're looking to either start, grow, or monetize your YouTube channel, or you're somewhere in between those phases, please stick around and listen for a while. We interview wonderful YouTube creators, just content creators in general, to give you a behind-the-scenes look of what it takes to succeed on YouTube and the platforms that you all know and love. We are brought to you today by the fine folks over at TubeBuddy. It's the one tool. When I'm asked if you could only have one tool for your YouTube journey, what would that be? It's always has been and always going to be TubeBuddy, not because they sponsor the show. It's because literally they care about the creator and they provide tools and meet with creators regularly to find out what they want, whether it be A/B testing of thumbnails, titles, descriptions, bulk editing tools, new AI features coming in the future, and everything in between. If you use our link that says try TubeBuddy for free for 30 days, you'll get access to everything TubeBuddy has to offer for an entire month. Guys, you can't beat that offer, so definitely check that out. It'll help us out. It'll help you out. It is a win-win situation. Also, we're brought to you by the fine folks over at patreon.com/DustyPorter. If you didn't know, we are starting a mastermind group. The first 3 sessions begin this coming Wednesday, the 15th of February. It doesn't matter if you're listening to this at a later date. If you join us over on Patreon at the $5 tier or higher. Now, after the first 3 months, this is going to go up significantly because we have had a large number of interested parties. So with that being the case, if you want to get in for the first 3 months and chat with YouTube creators, myself, other people who are committed to putting a little skin in the game, you can join our Patreon over there, and for the $5 tier or higher for the first 3 months, and you will get access to those first 3 I'm calling them YouTube Mastermind meetings. If you do that, I would really appreciate it. But on the flip side, you'll also get access to our Discord community, which is rapidly growing, as well as many other perks and benefits. This week alone, we had 6 new members join us over there. This week, I want to shout out Andrew Gibbs from Quick Tech Videos and Lesser Known Adventures, Corbin W., Nathan M., Don Ceramic, Anthony Pizzuto, Larry Mason with Rapid Repair DIY on YouTube, Mike Caton with Ace Method Coaching, Brian Scott with The Farmer's Life, and Miranda Mathewson. All of you guys and ladies are amazing. Can't wait to get started on our mastermind journey and looking forward to where we can grow that community. Now, if you're wondering, where can I subscribe to this show? I want to get these interviews in my feed every week. Just subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast. Hit that subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it. Also, we have a Google form down below. If you'd like to submit someone that you know that you can connect me with, who you think would be a great fit for the podcast to interview and have a chat with, please do that. Or it may be you. You can fill in the information. It takes less than 5 minutes. So we've got a wonderful interview for you this week. I cannot wait for you to take a listen. So let's go ahead and jump into this week's conversation. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's conversation on the YouTube Creators Hub podcast, where each and every week I have a wonderful YouTube creator or just creator in general on the podcast to talk about their journey, and this week is no different. I am joined today by Jack Higgins from the Jam in the Van YouTube channel. Jack was born in Boston, Massachusetts. I'm saying that like a Southerner, I know. He attended, is it Pitzer or Pitzer College?
Pitzer College.
So it's Pitzer College, where he studied video and event production. In 2013, he joined Jam in the Van and now works as a creative director, overseeing the creation and distribution of all of the JITV content, and he currently resides in Venice Beach, California. Jack, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Dusty?
I am doing wonderful. So normally, right here, I would ask the folks on the podcast, well, tell me the origin story of the channel, but since you joined them kind of as they were growing and getting going in 2013, I will ask you, what does one do as a creative director of a YouTube channel?
Sure. I'm wearing a lot of different hats. We're a very small company. I myself am the director, sometimes the director of photography, sometimes the audio engineer, usually the editor. And then I also am running our YouTube account. So I'm posting all of the content online. I'm optimizing our long form content for short form social media now, as that's such an important thing to grow a channel. And so I'm wearing a lot of different hats, but Jam in the Van, we started in 2011. You're correct in that I didn't join until 2013. But the co-founders, they used to go to Bonnaroo Music Festival. They had a great time, Jake, Louie, and Dave. And so they were brainstorming, how can we do this full time? And they came up with the idea for Jam in the Van. They said, let's get a van, let's transform it into a mobile solar-powered recording studio. Let's park backstage at music festivals, and let's make live music videos that we share online. Obviously, it was a bit of a bumpy road at first, and I actually joined right around the time that we had our first sponsorship. So it was a little more streamlined, and they had kind of figured out a lot of the ups and downs. And when I joined the team, I didn't have a lot of experience. I did go to school for media production, and they were great. They gave you all the resources, but they didn't give you a ton of technical instruction. So I kind of just joined the Jam in the Van team and watched and learned how to do kind of every aspect of the production. And that set me up for a place where I can now oversee every aspect of the production and make sure that everything's happening smoothly.
So a couple of things. First thing, really quick question. Are you doing this full time? Is this your full time?
I am.
Gig?
This is my full-time gig, and I've been with Jam in the Van for about 10 years.
Okay, so you've been with them for 10 years. Now, Jam in the Van, explain to us what to expect if you were to go to your guys' YouTube channel.
Sure. So like I said, we started as a solar-powered mobile recording studio. So when you go to our channel, you're going to see a lot of live music videos with both up-and-coming as well as some pretty well-renowned musical acts, both in rock and roll, hip-hop, funk. I mean, we work with bands in all sorts of different genres. And you can expect to see 3 new music releases a week. We release new music sessions on Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. More recently, during the pandemic, everything shut down as it did. And so we couldn't squeeze a bunch of people into a small space. And we couldn't bring our van and park it backstage at music festivals. So we had to kind of get creative. Yeah. In the ways that we were both creating content, but also just making money and surviving as a company. So, maybe 6 months or 7 months into the pandemic, we started hosting socially distanced outdoor music shows. We had a small, basically a parking lot in Los Angeles, right in the back of our office, and we started hosting these socially distanced outdoor music shows. We then had one comedy show, and because the Comedy Store was closed, the Laugh Factory was closed, and all of the biggest comedians in the world were out of work, we started getting some of the biggest comedians in the world performing at our socially distanced, outdoor venue, right. Including Craig Robinson, Tiffany Haddish, Eliza Schlesinger, Ali Wong, FaceTime Dave Chappelle on stage at our venue. And this was happening every night of the week. Obviously once things opened back up, we have since moved locations, and we are still doing our comedy shows, not every night of the week. But we have a new location in Culver City where we're hosting comedy shows a couple times a month. Right. We get some pretty amazing lineups. And now we've also kind of shifted gears into comedy content. And we've been seeing a lot of success with that type of content online.
So for me, just hearing you speak on it, it's really just a discoverability platform for creators, initially for music, and then you guys kind of branched into comedy when COVID started. Would you agree with that?
Yes. Now kind of the spiel that I give when I describe Jam in the Van is that we are a multimedia event and production company with a focus in live music and comedy.
I love it. I love it. And the channel has, as of today, recording this, 450,000 subscribers, almost 180 million video views. So you're doing something right. So let's transition now over to the YouTube side of things. When you took over in 2013, was the YouTube thing, did you have much experience with it in your previous gigs or jobs? I know you studied it in college, obviously, but did you have any work experience? And what did you learn early on when working on the channel?
I had no experience working on YouTube. I remember being in my college dorm as an intern. My first task at Jam in the Van was to just prep our videos for release on YouTube. So at the time, it was creating annotations, titling, tagging, writing the video description, and just optimizing our content for distribution on YouTube. It was, a tough learning curve at first. I had gone from a place where I'm like, I just want to focus on the production and the video editing to now, okay, how are we going to distribute this? But a couple years into it, and I know they're actually a sponsor of yours, we started using TubeBuddy, which made the whole process a whole lot smoother, more streamlined, and it allowed me to very seamlessly kind of direct viewership on our channel. Yes, we do have a very large subscriber base, but something that we've struggled with is actual engagement and building a community online. I think people have a lot of different music tastes, and we work with a lot of different bands. So, when we drop a video, we do have all of those subscribers, but it doesn't necessarily get seen by them right away. I have to do a lot of work on the back end of YouTube to redirect traffic to some of our newer content. And TubeBuddy has just made that very easy for us.
So I have a question. You mentioned the community side of it, and I agree with you. It's very difficult. I got over the subscriber to viewer ratio a long time ago. None of that matters to me. You may have a ton of subscribers, but you get 1,000 views per video. That's still whatever. I don't get caught up in that, because you really can, right? Like, you can say, "Oh man, I've got so many subscribers." That can really get into a creator's head. What are some community building things that you've learned over the past decade? It's a decade now almost for you, working with the channel and video content. Like, what are some ways that you can build a community, small or large?
Sure. We found a lot of success just kind of with grassroots engagement, going in online. We have a team of interns. We kind of let them loose on YouTube and say, okay, we've worked with these bands before, but we might not necessarily follow them on YouTube. We might not just subscribe to their channel. We probably haven't interacted with their content. So we send them out to go do that, but then also to interact with their fans, to like comments on their videos, in hopes that, Jam in the Van, at least in the music industry, is somewhat of a household name. Our goal there is basically to just put a notification in front of people that says, "Oh, Jam in the Van liked your content," or "Jam in the Van liked your comment," and then kind of organically just give them the opportunity. Oh, I'm going to subscribe to Jam in the Van. So that's some work that we've done more recently, and we're trying to get this going again. We're not doing it right now, but we started hosting these live listening parties, where basically we put out a call to action of submit your music. We want to listen to everyone's music. We want to find the next up and coming band online, and give them the opportunity to jam in the van. And then we would go live once a week. And basically we put a playlist together of all the bands that submitted. We'd let them know that their music had been added to our playlist and that we were going to listen to it on live. And then we got, I wouldn't say, maybe never over like 200 concurrent viewers, but those people that were watching were very engaged, and they were sharing, and they were coming back every week. And we also saw those same people who were engaging on the live stream start to engage with a lot of our other content as well.
Yeah, live streaming to me has always been up there, one of the top 2 or 3 ways to grow a community, because I always talk about a community doesn't necessarily mean people in bulk. It means a number of people who are just rabidly waiting for what you are doing, who are just, they're going to consume everything that that you put out there, and those are the folks that you want to get into your Discord server or follow you over on your other socials or whatever it may be. Now, you mentioned, you kind of have taken charge into repurposing and handling the short form content for the channel as well.
Yes.
That has been a very big thing here on the podcast as that has rolled out over the past few years. Obviously, TikTok blew up, and then YouTube kind of fumbled the ball there, but now I think they're back in the game with doing vertical content with the YouTube Shorts, and we have monetization coming very soon. What are some things that you've learned in these, I still call them the early days of short vertical form content, that you could share with my audience?
Sure. One thing that we found is that music content is very hard to go viral with the short form, within that short form, strategy. I think it's very important that you hook your audience within the first, 2 to 3 seconds. We will post a short form vertical, basically just 60-second cut of one of our music videos, and those usually will just average out around 1,000 views. They're very high quality content, multiple camera angles, great audio recording, some really high quality bands, but they just don't hook people the same way that interview content, podcast content, and comedy content hooks people. So we've been trying to, play around with different ways to share our music content. We have started pushing more podcast programming, as well as, for example, I recently posted a video of Mike Love. He's a reggae artist who jammed in the van. It was a short snippet from his music video, but we cut to kind of a reaction of this hippie dancing outside, looking through the window. And then it was kind of the juxtaposition. It was only a 7-second short, but it was like Mike Love jamming in the van. And then it cut to this guy jamming outside. And then we had text on screen that was like, dude jamming in the bushes outside. And that one actually did quite better than our typical straightforward music short form content. So we're trying to find new ways to incorporate, text on screen, to give value to the viewer outside of just listening to the music.
And I want to ask you, what are the technical things that you're doing? Like, how are you repurposing these things? Are you using the same video editor? What have you found to be some best practices in regards to just making it happen and getting the videos out there?
That is a good question. I, for the most part, am handling all of our short form content edits. One thing that I've, in my research, just online, looking at TikToks and YouTube Shorts, I've been seeing a lot of people say, if you have a piece of content that you think will go viral, that deserves to go viral, just try a bunch of different ways to edit it. If it doesn't go viral the first time, try a different hook. If it doesn't go viral the second time, make it shorter. So we have been playing around with that a little bit. Okay, I feel like this video should have hit. It didn't. Let's look at why. Let's look at the audience retention. YouTube has great analytics where you can see exactly where people stopped watching, where they lost attention, that type of thing. So we're trying to pay attention to that. And then also just, we're posting all of the short form content on TikTok and Instagram as well. So paying attention to how it does on those platforms is part of our strategy.
Yeah, and a lot of what I've seen you do and others is take the long form stuff and just kind of piece it down into short form content. What I do is any short tutorial that I have, I've been testing it out on my TikTok account, and then I have a way where I can kind of remove that TikTok watermark, and then I may repost that as a YouTube short, or I may even re-edit it. Now, are you using what are you using? Like, what are the tools of the trade for you? Are you using Premiere Pro? Are you using something else? Like, give us a whole walkthrough of kind of your workflow.
Sure. So I guess starting with production, Blackmagic actually, they reached out to us. Kenji in Japan was a big fan of Jam in the Van, and they sent us 3 Blackmagic Pocket Cinema cameras 6K.
Oh, wow.
As well as an A10 Mini Pro and an A10 Mini Extreme. So we're shooting everything on those Blackmagic cameras. We have our Canon lenses. We're doing a 70 to 200 on sticks. We have a 16 to 35 lens millimeter on a slider, and then we have a wide 16 to 35 blocked off on sticks. And then, when we take it into the edit room, we're using Adobe Creative Cloud. Adobe Premiere obviously is our bread and butter, but oftentimes we'll take it into After Effects. We're utilizing Photoshop as well. So I would say, for the most part, I actually will, I'm doing the DIT work. So I'll go after production, I'll drop everything, back it up, and then I'll send it to one of our editors to edit the long form content. I'll send them notes. Maybe we'll go through a couple rounds of revisions. Once it's done, we'll upload it to YouTube as unlisted to make sure that we can prep everything, make sure that it's monetized, that there's no copyright strikes that we have to dispute or anything like that. And then once that's ready to go, I'm not downloading their edits. I'm working with the source files for the short form content. I know a lot of people will, they have different editors and they'll just download the long form and then, cut it up for short form. But I prefer to work with the source files because I have more flexibility, especially as we're venturing into podcasting content and comedy content. The podcasting content, a lot of times people are talking over each other.
Yeah.
And for the short form, it's very important that you can manipulate. And, if someone says something, but someone's talking over them, I'm going to cut their mic. And I'm going to, cut it up so that it's optimized for short form content. And that's kind of our workflow.
I love it. There is a lot that goes into it. But at the end of the day, I think one of the things that I'm hearing from you is that trying things, experimenting, and throwing things at the wall, even for a channel as big as what you're managing, is very important. And people are so afraid to do that. And I think YouTube is kind of, I was listening to a creator stream on another platform, Twitch, and they were streaming, and someone asked them a question. It's a very large streamer, and they asked them a question. They said, well, why don't you do X or X, Y, and Z, and kind of venture away from kind of what their channel is built around, but not necessarily get outside of their niche or their space. But it's one of the situations to where the creator answered, they said, well, the reason I don't do that is because it would ruin my channel. And I really feel that YouTube has kind of fostered that in a way, because it is scary to go outside of what you normally do, what normally works. Because if you do, and that's why I was so fearful of short form content for a while, because they would put it all together. And if you've listened to the show, you know my feelings on this. They would put the short form video right on the same page with long form. It looked hideous. They were shaped differently. If you were a person like me who was OCD, you would see like the long form against the short form, and it would just look terrible. So they have kind of really answered some of those questions. But do you feel that way at all?
Let me think about how to phrase this. Jam in the Van, like we talked about, we were a music channel, exclusively for 8 years. In that time, we had a few other different initiatives, like we put out this band appetit cooking show where we would invite bands to come and cook with a celebrity chef, and we'd cut back to their music video and maybe ask them a couple questions about music. We also, we have worked with a ton of different brands at all these different events. We've worked with Dole Foods and Hormel Foods and OWC and QSC, and a lot of times those brands, we set up deals with them where we have specific deliverables. They said, okay, we want you to post basically an advertisement on your channel. Those videos did very, very poorly.
Yes.
It was basically, someone would be in a playlist, and I think people are looking for organic content. If a brand is involved, it's important that they kind of fall into the background, that it's more about the lifestyle than it is the brand.
Yes.
So we steered away from that kind of commercial type content and tried to figure out more organic ways to integrate brands. And then more recently, with all the different comedy content that we've been putting out, because we have a ton of comedy content. We started putting that out in the past year on our YouTube channel. And like I said, we'd been doing music for 8 years, and I think our subscribers were a little confused, especially because we didn't have any sort of video or exclamation like, hey guys, we're also doing this now. And so we've seen great success. Like we had a couple short form, a couple YouTube shorts, comedy shorts go viral on our YouTube channel, hitting, I think our biggest one is almost at 4 million views.
Oh, wow.
And I think it's different with the long form content and the short form content, because the short form, the YouTube shorts, it's kind of like TikTok, right? It's like a For You page. It just gets shared with everybody, regardless if they're subscribing to you or not. And because of that, we were able, that video that hit 4 million views, the short form comedy video, we got a ton of subscribers from that. But I think maybe those subscribers are confused now seeing all the music content that's coming out.
Right.
And actually, after listening to your podcast, we decided to niche down and start a separate channel just for comedy.
Yes.
I think also, with comedy, it's a lot of opinions. People will say things that other people don't agree with.
Right.
And especially on YouTube, on our music channel, people they had subscribed for music, and all of a sudden they were being given maybe opinions that they didn't agree with. And so ultimately we decided to niche down, start a separate YouTube channel, Jam in the Van Comedy. We're actually going to be launching it this week, in hopes that we're able to build a community focused specifically on comedy. We're pretty confident that with all the comedy content that we have, we're going to be able to grow a community and a subscriber base pretty quickly, just focusing on the comedy content and keeping the comedy content and the music content separate.
I love that. I love to hear kind of your thought process behind it, why you guys did it, how you're doing it. I love that. Thank you for answering those questions.
Sure.
I do want to ask you this, though, on the backs of that explanation. What are ways that the Jam in the Van channel is making money? Because you obviously are making money. And how do some of those tie back to the YouTube channel and content creation? If you would explain kind of some of the income sources that you guys have and have created from the content.
Sure. So I'd say probably our biggest source of income, at least in relation to YouTube, is partnerships. We have partnered with hundreds of different brands over the past 10 years to organically integrate their product into our music videos. For example, we partner with Audio-Technica microphones, and we exclusively use their microphones on all of our music videos. We put their logo at the top end of our music videos, and we said, this is recorded exclusively on Audio-Technica. So we have a deal with them in place. Same thing with QSC Audio. So we have a lot of different gear brands, Orange amplifiers, as well as OWC hard drives. And all of those brands, we have deals in place where basically we're putting B-roll and logos in the videos, as well as putting a link in our description for those brands. But then we'll go to events like South by Southwest in Austin, Texas. Sorry, we don't go to South by Southwest. Mm-hmm. We are in South by Southwest. Right. Or sorry, we're in Austin during South by Southwest.
Sure.
But we're not affiliated with the event at all. But we'll have our own event in Austin where we bring in tons of different, brand partners. We have a dog brand that's going to be activating. And because at events, we're not just creating the content, we're also in activation. We create a space where people can come at these events. They can watch the music videos as they're being performed. Mm-hmm. Like I said, we have our 3 Blackmagic cameras. We're running all of that into our ATEM Mini Extreme. So we're live editing these high quality music videos, which we're then projecting to large LED screens outside of the van. People gather around, they watch, they get a very intimate experience because a lot of the artists, what might be someone's favorite artist is right there, walking out of the van. They get to interact with them, and so do the brands. The brands gift them. And try and create content with the bands as that's happening. So that's kind of been our bread and butter, is those brand partnerships. Obviously, also we do monetize on YouTube. We are part of an MCN, a multi-channel network that helps us kind of optimize the way in which we're monetizing on YouTube. Recently, we just swapped MCNs, and I'm glad, and I'm happy about it, because we had an issue with mid-roll ads. We had a lot of mid-roll ads being placed on our, like, in the middle of music videos, which I think was bad for engagement. So now we're going back through and making sure that all of our mid-roll ads are being placed in between songs, or if it's on a single video, that we're not including mid-roll ads at all. So that is kind of a few of the ways that we've made money. But we've also hosted events. We have our venue in Los Angeles where we're hosting music and comedy shows, as well as various live streams. And the last thing I would say is we also release a lot of this music to audio streaming platforms like Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music, etc.
So a couple follow-ups here. It's really interesting to hear you talk about the mid-rolls, because like when I do videos that are 8 minutes or longer and I do strictly tutorial stuff, I make it a habit, and have for years now, and I thought I was one of the only ones who did this, but it's fun to hear you say this, because I don't do music stuff, so it just makes sense. Like if I was watching a music video and a mid-roll played right in the middle of the song when I was like getting into it or really starting to feel the song or feel the music, and then an ad pops up for like Colgate toothpaste, that would just ruin the experience, right? And so with that being the case, to hear you say you're placing them strategically, I would encourage creators who are monetized and are doing that. Number one, if you are using mid-roll ads, make sure you're doing it the right way, not necessarily just strategically placing them like what that he's talking about, but really think about, do you really need a mid-roll ad? Like, is the video long enough? I know YouTube allows you to do it for 8 minutes or more now. I say, 10, 12-minute or longer videos, then you put the mid-roll in there. I'm all about making money. I'm all about trying to monetize and get money for the time you spend, but understand that these ads could ruin the experience that could make you more money in the end, whether it be gaining a client or gaining one of those, big, huge fans that we were talking about earlier in the episode. So it's really interesting to hear you say that. So I want to close this episode with talking about music on YouTube. What precautions, I assume the majority of musicians that you have on your channel are original artists, but I assume some of them may or may not do covers. What precautions do you have to put in place, and what things do you have to do throughout the process to make sure that you're doing everything YouTube's asked you to do to make sure you don't run into any copyright issues?
Sure. So any band that jams in the van, we have a pretty detailed appearance release that they have to sign, basically just allowing us to monetize the content and recoup our production costs. For the most part, because these are live performances, they don't get flagged by Content ID because they're unique. The waveforms are different than the actual live recordings, and we don't get a ton of copyright claims. When we do get copyright claims that come in, we dispute them and we share our legal paperwork that we have in place with the band, and for the most part, we can get them removed. Every once in a while, we'll work with a larger band, maybe a touring band. They have a few more hurdles as far as legal team and management, and we'll work out deals specific to those bands. Perhaps we're not able to monetize, or perhaps we're only able to post the video for a couple years. But we've worked with bands of all different levels. But I'd say kind of the standard is that we are able to monetize, and that bands are going to have to sign our appearance release to participate in the content, because it is a big thing, especially in music, legal rights. We just want to make sure that we have all of our bases covered. Yeah,
just dotting the I's, crossing the T's, making sure you're doing the things that you need to do as a creator to make sure you cover because the last thing you need is to ruin your channel and ruin the hard work you've put in because you forget or have a kind of boneheaded mistake. So I love that. With anything with copyright, I'm so cautious. It's kind of like taxes. I'm so fearful of the IRS and getting audited that I probably overdo it. The same thing goes for YouTube copyright and rules like that. I just want to make sure I always abide by the rules and do the things the right way. So it's really good to hear you say that. I tell you what, this has been an amazing interview. Thank you so much for joining us. It's really interesting, Jack, to get a perspective from someone who necessarily doesn't own the channel, but is working for and basically running the channel. It's kind of a different perspective, and to hear you say that. So where can folks get in touch with you online if they want to after listening to this?
Sure. First, I'm going to plug Jam in the Van, obviously, at Jam in the Van on all social platforms. We've also started our new Jam in the Van comedy channel on YouTube, so go check that out. My personal Instagram is jhigsyo, JHIGGSYO. If you want to connect with me, I'd be happy to connect with anyone who is interested in learning more about the channel and maybe even jamming in the van.
I love it. I'm not much of a musician, but I'd love to be there one day at one of these recordings as these guys are in that van and they're jamming out. I was looking at your map earlier, and I've seen that you guys done some recording in Atlanta, which is literally down the road from me.
Oh, no way.
So maybe one day we could connect and hang out there. That'd be a lot of fun. So, Jack, thank you so much. Go check out, again, Jam in the Van. Everything that we mentioned link-wise will be in the show notes, as always, and we'll talk to you guys next time.
Thanks, Dusty.
You've been listening to the YouTube Creators Podcast. We want to thank you and invite you to subscribe to the show, as well as support us on Patreon for great perks, such as having your YouTube channel featured on the show and a link on our website. Until next time, keep uploading those videos.